Welcome to the third half, I'll say, of Kids Community Connections 103.1 Kids FM. And I'm Phyllis Jones, and we're still rolling, we're still talking. And to introduce my guest, I'm gonna have to go back to the Police Community Forum. You know, during the forum, I was first of all, I was gonna sit in the front. I really was. And then, you know, something said, no, you need to sit in the back. I'm like, oh man. But guess what? I should have sat in the back. And I'm glad I sat back there, because back there I learned more. Okay, first of all, if everybody knows me, you know I know my community very well. I actually do. And because I go wherever and see whoever, I have no boundaries. And I really don't. I don't have any boundaries. And you can't tell me where I can't go, because I can go where I want to go. I have that right to do that. But at the forum, I listened to, like I said, once again, I listened to a lot of pain. I listened to some people. But next to me was a lady, and she had a pen on her. And I was trying to look at the pen without being nosy. I really was. I was trying to, how do you look at, because she had a male's face on her pen. And I was like, I need to look at her pen. You know, I'm trying to do the little sneak look, right? I'm like, forget it. Just forget it. So we just started talking at that point. And she had let me know about her son. And her frustration of not reaching out to people, and them, you know, not reaching back, or reaching back saying, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll call you," and you know, like the last bag of potato chips, when you get finished, you throw it away. And that's what she felt like she was being treated as. Well, and also, if you know me, that I'm an actionary person. I'm gonna tell you who you need to call this person right here, because I think we're supposed to. And I think I said it at last week's Village Mixer. We need to be a walking Rolodex. You really do. If you're in the community and you claim that you know it, you need to be a walking Rolodex. You need to be able to sit down and say, okay, this is who you need to talk to. This is who you need to call. You need to be able to do that. If you can't, then you're not a community leader. And I'll say it straight out. You're not. You're not about your community. If you don't know how to open up your phone, your purse, your backpack, because I tell everybody, all my information is in my backpack. It's in my truck. It stays there because I don't know when I might need it. But anyway, I shared Miss Robinson. I'm like, hey, this is the person you need to call. And that's what we need to do. So, good morning, Ms. Robinson. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
And I was glad to meet you on Thursday.
Likewise. Likewise. Definitely sunshine.
Because, like I said, I was going to sit up front. And something said, no, you need to sit in the back. And, you know, I was battling with me and that other person, you know, going, I want to sit in the front. So I listened, and I sat where I was supposed to sit. And I sat there, and now I know why I sat there, because I became more of a part of of what was going on. But I want to ask you about your story. You had a young man on your pen on your shirt, and who is the young man that you had on your shirt?
My son Mitchell, my oldest son.
Okay, and also James.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have James Debrow, and he's a law enforcement analyst. So he's on, again, because he is our analyst we have. And so whatever questions that you need to know about the legalities, the police legalities, he's here to throw in and let us know, nah, I can't do that. Yes, you can. So you ready, James?
Yes. May I open with something real quickly?
Yes, you can.
First of all, I'd like to say that if you tell me a scenario, that scenario is based on one side. So I would only be able to answer from that one side perspective, which means that what I say is incomplete because the other side deserves to give their story. Even in court, that's what happens. In court, there are two sides to every story, and the trier of facts, their job is to listen to both sides of the stories, and the jury will give their assessment, or if it's a bench trial, the judge will. But here's something that I want Dr. Jones to get across to her listeners, and that is this. And remember these words the way I said, protection of individuals. Now, that would be every individual that is in the United States. So I'm going to repeat. The protection of individuals is the court's main function. So their job in the criminal justice system, their main function is to protect every individual. based upon the laws of the land, whatever they may be. So, okay, go ahead. I'm ready to respond.
I have one question before we talk to Ms. Robinson, and we all were shocked when the police chief told us. The police chief told us in Texas that they can arrest you for any reason whatsoever. We like to fill out of our chairs because I never heard that. So I need to ask you, can they arrest you in Texas only, he said, for anything that they want to?
Okay, now let me say, I'm going to respond from my perspective, my 35.5 years in law enforcement and working for 2 state agencies, working for local municipalities as well. That is the first time I've heard that. Now, there are some classification of offenses, and let me give them to you real quickly. The classification of offenses will start with capital murder, or capital offense. These are felonies. You got first degree, second and third degree felony, and a state degree felony. Those are arrestable. Then you have 3 classes. The 3 classes of offense are Class A and Class B. Those are arrestable. Now, Class C, according to the statute, they are fines only. Okay? Now, so the other question would be, can you arrest for a Class C? Which ones? Now, if you got a person that's public intoxicated, that's a Class C. But this person is too drunk to be amongst the public, he's a danger to himself, well then the circumstance would have to be articulated. But there's no such thing of just arresting in every scenario based upon, the classification of offenses that I just gave you.
Okay. Now, what about the zero tolerance area? Because
what does that mean? What do you mean?
Okay, it was a lady, she got stopped by the police, and the question and ID and basically harassed because they told her she was in a zero tolerance zone. And how it was explained to us is if gangs or drugs are in one area, that they have under zero tolerance, they can actually, come at you, why are you over here, ask your address, where you're going. Okay, you're laughing.
Yeah, I am. It's the sad thing about being in law enforcement, period, is to when you tell me something like that, one, is unbelievable, and then 2, I'm wondering what educational level, what kind of experience that this person has, and where are they coming from. This is the first time I've ever heard of a zero tolerance. Now, if that's something internal, where they have say, well, this is a zero tolerance neighborhood, I'm not sure what that means. But let me just be very, very clear here. When you're talking about arresting somebody, detaining them, that's covered under the 4th Amendment. And the 4th Amendment, this is a federal law, the 4th Amendment says that every person has a right to be secured in their persons and their houses, with their papers, all of these things, et cetera, means a police officer just can't come up and go into your house. Okay, so if he goes into your house, 1, he's going to need a search warrant. 2, he's going to have to be invited in. Or 3, what they call exigent circumstances, whatever they may be, then that may be cause. But just to go into somebody's house just because you think this is a zero tolerance, I can tell you, under the way I'm saying it right now, that would be a violation of the 4th Amendment. And you just can't. Now, a police officer can walk up to anybody and ask you a question. Does he have a legal right? If you say, hey, I don't want to answer that question, I haven't done anything, I don't want to talk to you anymore, I don't know why an officer would persist. Now, let's just say they do persist. You have a right to remain silent under the 5th Amendment. You can invoke your 5th Amendment right. That means you have a right to remain silent, not say anything. And then you can invoke your Sixth Amendment rights. Your Sixth Amendment right is the right to have an attorney present when you are questioning or being questioned by a police officer or anybody representing, state government. You have those rights. And so, but this is the first that I've ever heard where anybody would say we have zero tolerance, and you would send your officers out there in a zero tolerance zone and start picking up, talking to any person. Now, there's another thing. I'm not saying this is racial profiling. It depends on the group. If it's just a particular group, it could be racial profiling. Racial profiling is illegal as well. And so this is and this is where I think that police that operate outside of the law, I think, when a police officer operates outside of their training, that should be a red flag to an agency. If you got a police officer that's operating outside of the legal frameworks of the law, that's also another problem. And then fourthly, if these officers are not being supervised, how are they being supervised? Who's looking at their traffic stops to ensure that these officers are not violating people's civil rights? And that's where the courts come in. The courts are sort of an oversight to ensure that the citizens are protected, and that's why they have these procedural safeguards. Procedural safeguards, one of those, let me tell you what they are real quickly, because I want to educate you. I want you to be able to understand what's going on. A procedural safeguard, meaning for an officer to come up and start questioning you, that's a procedural safeguard under the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment says you have a right to remain silent. See, that's the procedural safeguard. That means that the police can't abuse their powers. And that's where we get into problematic issues, is when a police step outside of the confines of their role, what they're supposed to do. We're supposed to be law enforcement officers only. We enforce the law. We're not out there to punish people and adjudicate a case on the side of the road or anywhere. So, but that's to answer your question in close. I've never heard of zero tolerance in a particular neighborhood, because crime is everywhere if you look for it.
Can you hang on? Can you hang on? Because we want you to listen to Mrs. Robinson.
Yes.
Okay, Miss Robinson, what happened with your son and when?
He was murdered in AA Lane Park in North Killeen on August the 12th of last year. Right. He was Killeen's 15th homicide for the year.
And when that happened, did they know? Who notified you?
A detective came by my house. I'm sure they have some type of procedure. It's one of the things I spoke to the chief of police after the forum was over. I had some suggestions of maybe a better way. I know there's no good way to deliver the news, but we didn't see a car. There was no identifying things outside to say that the police were there. Once she came in and delivered the news, she asked us a couple of questions and disappeared. I think that hopefully after talking to them, they will draw some type of agenda to help the victims to know what to do next. I feel like they just assumed that we've obviously gone through this, and so we know what to do next. We know who to call, who's going to call us, where to go. As I explained in the forum, I would have given anything for a piece of paper to tell me what the next step is. I didn't know where my son was, were we allowed to see him, how long it would be. I didn't have any of that information.
So are the police supposed to, Mr. Debrow, are they supposed to talk to her about any of that?
She made a sort of gave me a big overview, but not a very specific question. She said a whole lot, but let me just say, do you remember who the detective was?
I actually don't.
Okay.
I have the card. I just didn't bring it with me. But she was a homicide detective, and she did identify herself as that once I went to the door. My husband went first, and she just said she was from the Killeen Police Department. But we looked out the window. We didn't see a car, so we were really reluctant to actually let her in. I'm not sure why they do it that way. Maybe it's to protect themselves, protect us. I'm not sure. But so when she came in, she did give a card, and like I said, she gave us the news, asked a couple of questions, and then they left.
Okay. All right.
So we weren't even quite sure of the details, where they found him, how long it had been, just certain things that I thought that it would have been helpful for us to know.
Okay. Let me back all the way back up. Now it doesn't have to go this way, but a progressive department that cares about its citizens, especially in a homicide, which is a higher level and severity, severe type of offense. When they show up, I'm glad that it was good to hear that they gave you a business card, because you should have, whoever's been assigned to that case, you should have their full name, date of birth, their position, their phone number. Now, that being a landline, if they have a cell phone number, they should give you that, because one, you may hear something and you need to be able to get hold of that detective right away.
Well, let me say this. I'm not sure if they changed detectives, because the detective that ended up investigating the case is not the same person that came over. I don't know if they have different ones to do different things. But I've never seen her again or heard from her again.
Yeah, and that's the problem when you don't get things that I'm telling you that every citizen, in my opinion, should get. And especially again, if they're a progressive law enforcement agency that believes that they're there to serve the community, with that philosophy, then you should have all of the contacts, that email, everything. Now, they may not tell you all the specifics of a crime. There's a reason to withhold that information.
Understand that perfectly well, sir, that they're protecting their case to make sure that they don't jeopardize any information that might hinder the investigation.
Well, no, it's a little deeper than that. What it is, when you find the right person, only that person would know those facts and circumstances. That would be the reason for withholding it more than anything, because many of them people that call in and confess to crimes all the time, but only whoever did that would know very specific facts. So that's the biggest reason. It's for the integrity of the case and to make sure that the right person is brought to justice.
So is your son's case still open?
Absolutely open. I learned from the verbiage. He said there's a difference in the police chief said this on Thursday night, that unsolved and not arrested is two different things. But from a family's perspective, when you don't have the information, no arrest equates unsolved. From our perspective, we're looking to have the killer brought to justice.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Have you set up a meeting
with the chief?
On that case level, whoever the supervisor is over the detective division, I would contact that person. So they should be trying to keep you in the loop.
I can answer that, because they've made appointments and they've canceled those appointments with her. So the only way she found out who the chief is she came to the police department and saw his face on the wall.
Yes, I took a picture of the plaque that's outside of the police department, so I would know the names of the people and who was in charge of what. That's how I knew the hierarchy of the police department. I drove over there myself to take a picture.
Wow. Yeah, you have a right. I'm hoping that after the meeting that you have with the chief, that somebody does sit down with you, and they can either say they're working it, we have some leads, or at least what they have and where they are without hurting the case.
The police chief said they have nothing.
They've already said that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then the next question would be, what are they putting out to get people to come in? I mean,
the thing that I'd like to say,
they have a Facebook. Go ahead.
The thing that I'd like to say was when you say what are they putting out, that's one of my issues. I feel like when they first announced it, they found a man shot in the park. One of the first things that the spokesperson said that to me it seems to set the course of things, the way that they react to what they found. And one of the things that they said was the park was a place known for illegal activity, sex, drugs. So if you are putting that out when you're announcing it, before they even announce his name, you're setting a course in the minds of the people to assume that my son was there doing something illegal when you haven't even disclosed his name. So and you put a discriminatory idea in people's mind. They feel like, well, if he was there illegally, maybe he got what he deserved, when you haven't even open the case to decide why he was there or how he even got there. So to me, whenever they are giving their statement to the media, it should be without bias. And I understand that they may be saying it for their own reasons, but as a whole, it sets a course of people's mindsets when you say what type of place it is. And one of the questions that I ask on Thursday, if that is known, then why is the park open? There is no signs there to say what time you shouldn't be there. There was no fence, no gate. He didn't break in the park. He drove into the park, so he had a legal right to be in the park. So why would you put out that there was something illegal always going on when it wasn't relevant to this particular case?
And what answers did they give you?
None.
That's a very good question.
And she's right. Also, that park has no lighting
or no restroom.
Yeah, no lighting, no nothing. But before, and she's right. Before they told you about what happened, they described the whole park as basically Drug City, USA, and only illegal things go in there. And then after they stated that, they let you know that her son had been murdered in that park. But they gave you all the scenario first.
Yes.
And so in some people's mind, if they think, and we shouldn't be that way, but we know as people, we have a certain bias towards certain things. If you think that someone was illegally doing something or somewhere they didn't belong, then there's less of a heart to bring someone to justice, because even in the forum, they were discussing some things about gang violence. And the tone was, well, they're trying to kill each other. So what? It may not have been their exact intention to come across that way, but that's how it sounds. So whenever you're going to disclose that there's something happened and you're asking for witnesses, you shouldn't make biased statements, because it can cloud the minds of the people to decide if it's worth putting their life on the line. Because if you haven't caught the killer and then you go out and publicize who's telling you what, then they may feel endangered and they may feel that it's not a just cause to step up and bring forth information. So I feel for my son, his case was biased from the beginning when it was disclosed to the public as if he did not have a right to be there, when in fact he didn't have there was no reason that he shouldn't have been there. It's a public park. It's open to the public, and he was a part of the public.
And at the gang violence, they said, well, they were just shooting at each other. Well, there's no such thing as just shooting at each other, because someone also let him know that bullets don't have a name, and just shooting at each other is not just okay, because while they were shooting at each other, they could have shot someone else. But all the chief wanted to make you let it be known is that, they were just shooting at each other.
Those issues are right there. I think she started in the right place. What you said, ma'am, made great sense to me. And but there's an old saying that common sense ain't so common, and I've learned that in my career in this business on both sides of the house. But I would ask you this: have you gone to a city council meeting?
I've spoke personally with the city council member who's assigned.
No, doing a meeting.
No, I have not.
Okay.
I've spoken to everybody except the President of the United States. I've spoken to our congressmen, state representatives, some of the councilmen, the mayor, the city manager, and as of Thursday, the chief of police. He was actually the last person on my list, and I got to speak to him on Thursday.
And nobody's giving you any answers.
Well, there's a huge disconnect as far as support for advocacy for the victims' families. I had to go to each individual. There should be a tunnel or a portal that we're able to touch each person, but it's not like that. You have to find out who you need to talk to. One of the things that I would like to have seen was that the park was lighted. Mm-hmm. It was dark, and any witnesses couldn't have seen anything anyway. There were a lot of bushes that needed cutting down, and there were no lights. I never thought that I would have to jump through so many hoops to get a light bulb in a park. You go from city council to Parks and Recreation, back to this committee, that committee, and then there's still nothing done. There's no way to connect a lot of the dots that you need connecting when you're looking for something. Even outside of the crime itself being solved, we were looking to bring change to that area, and that has been a struggle as well.
Well, I think, let me just say that, back up and talk what I know about being the head of an agency. And it sounds like you did everything correct, but you did go before the city council, is that right?
No,
she hasn't.
Okay, that's one thing you didn't do, because those things have to be taped and under the Open Meetings Act.
Let me say this. I was promised that through the last mayor and the last city councilman that I would get a chance to sit down and speak to the specific department.
Well, here's two things you could do. You can always show up, and there should be something for you to sign.
Yes, it is open for
and
yes.
I think they give you 3 or 5 minutes, whatever it is. Now, under that format, all you have to do, they can't answer you back, but you can speak. Okay, that's one way. And then the second way is being allowed to put on the agenda, to ask to be placed on the agenda, and to now engage in a question and answer.
I can help her with
two
that.
Two different things. Okay,
I can help her with both of those.
Yeah.
We can take care of both of those. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and listening and giving us some sound advice that we need. And you do know you're going to be back again. So just, yeah.
Well, yes, ma'am. Well, I just want to, I promise you that I will always speak the truth, and every citizen in this country, no matter what your race, color, creed, religion, there are some legal protections for you. And as a criminal justice practitioner, that's what I stand for. And I hope the rest of my colleagues will continue to step up for the protection of all individuals.
Ms. Robinson has one more question for you.
Yes.
I spoke about the crime index rate in the forum, and the police chief, I believe it was, he said that he had never heard of the crime index rate. It's a score that each city gets based upon its statistics, and the statistics are broken down by the crimes, whether they're property crimes, violent crimes, homicides. They're broken down by number per capita, and then they give you a score. Now, have you heard of this crime index?
Yes, I have. But let me now, there's a lot of people that do stats, and so there are many out there. So this could come from a lot of different groups. But let me take you back to the one that I know in law enforcement that we use, where the FBI, or the gatekeepers, is called the Crime Uniform Act.
Right.
And under the Crime Uniform Act, stats are sent up, but there again, reporting. Not everybody reports. The agencies, not all agencies report, and so that's another area of reform I think would be a great topic because we do need to see the stats.
Okay. Yeah, he had said he had never heard of.
Because I told him that our crime index was 11.6.
And who said that? Who said it? Yeah.
It's in my phone, but I read it when the FBI brought their report out sometime in the spring, I believe.
Yeah, but was it the actual Crime Uniform Act? See, you got colleges and universities doing research. And
it's one that's geared toward your neighborhood.
She said it's one geared toward your neighborhood.
Yeah, I understand that, but who is that? That's what you got to find out.
Okay, all right, okay.
Then you have to look at how did they determine what that was, what did they use.
Okay.
Because all of that says a lot about research as well.
She said it came from the FBI.
The FBI Crime Uniform Act?
Yes.
They use that data.
Okay.
And he said he had never heard of it.
Who haven't?
Our chief of police, Chief Baldwin.
Yes.
Because the question I posed was, if it's 100, would you eat at a restaurant whose score was 11.6?
Yes.
Because we live in a city who has a safety score of 11.6.
Wow.
But I want to thank you.
I don't know you, ma'am, but I can tell you you're very smart lady, and I wish you well on your quest.
Thank you very much.
Right. Yes, thank you for listening and giving us some points, and I'll be talking to you later.
All right, Dr. J. Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Ms. Robinson, as we close, and you'll be coming back because you want us to help you with a candlelight vigil?
Yes, ma'am. On August the 12th, I'd like for people to come out to AA Lane Park and bring a light, whether it's a candlelight, a flashlight. I'd like to see, if only by the community, that park is lit.
Okay.
And hopefully that will inspire them to make a permanent lighting change for that park.
So right before then, I need you to come back on the show.
Okay.
And I'll say Kids Community Connections. I'm supporting you. We're supporting you.
Thank you.
And we'll be there, and we will make sure that the public knows to be there.
Okay. Yeah, because I also would like the public to begin to support advocacy for the families that's lost, because I know that you guys are doing something for the victims of this year, but I know a lot of families from last year, we feel like they are trying to quickly file us away because of the astronomical amount of homicides in that year, because it was a 70% increase from 2014.
Right.
And so it seems that they're trying to hurry up and statistically sweep us under the rug and celebrate the limited 6 from the 18 to 20 last year.
If you would set up a meeting with them from last year, if you could set up a meeting, I'll come.
Okay,
we'll
absolutely.
come and sit down and talk and not let those things die.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to thank you for coming on this morning, and I want to thank everybody for coming on this morning. We had a powerful morning, so I hope everybody got a good intake of what happened. And also, if you missed listening to the show, remember, you can go to mykiss1031.com and you can listen to it. Be on it's on the website. Go under Community Connections, and it stays there. So you can always revisit the same information over and over again. And I want to, like I said, once again, thank everybody for coming. And everybody who's here today will be back again. But also, I want you to always remember, you cannot lead a positive life with a negative mind. We'll talk to you next Sunday. Bye now.